So my name is Kane Peterson from NewTek. We should have Ted joining us in the chat room here shortly, but I don't want to keep us waiting any longer because I know everybody's busy and got stuff to do. This is a follow-up training to the April 7th training I did on TriCaster Advanced Edition 2 and NDI. So the main things we're looking to try to accomplish in this training, it will not be as long as that previous one, is really just to cover anything new since that April 7th training. You know, we had NAB, we released some new NDI applications at NAB, and there have also been a few updates released since then as well. So I just want to go through, kind of touch on all these things, make sure we take a close look at these new NDI applications like Telestrator, Adobe CC, and Transmit. We're also going to take a quick look at 3Play and its NDI support because that was not available to show in the previous training I did. And we're also just going to touch a little bit on a comparison matrix between TriCaster Mini and TriCaster 460, just so those of you out there doing demos and selling systems, give you kind of all the information as to, why should a customer buy one over the other. So let's get started. And the first thing we're going to take a look at here is new features in TriCaster Advanced Edition 2. So we released this right before NAB, and there's been some updates since then. But just literally the end of last week, a new update came out that added two features that I think are things that people definitely want. One of them is a feature returning, something that was originally removed out of Advanced Edition version 2 that is returning better than ever. And the other feature is something brand new that I think a lot of you will be happy with. So let me flip over to the interface. You can see my TriCaster 8000 interface here. So the first new feature, well, I guess returning feature, I guess is a way to put it, is H.264 recording. I know this has been something that has kept some people from performing the upgrade to Advanced Edition version 2 because they did not, they relied on this H.264 encoding and they just, couldn't live without it. You'll be happy to know this is back, and as I just mentioned a minute ago, better than ever. So let's take a quick look at where this is and how you use it, because it is a little tiny bit different here. So I'm going to zoom into the corner of the interface and open up a record tool. So you can see that there is still the 4 channels of recording that we had previously, and this is in QuickTime format. But below that, you'll see there's a new distribution category, and there are now 2 more record options that are available in here. There is a H.264, and you can set that up on this first one here. You can choose which output you want to record, and you can also choose what quality level you want to record at. Oh, let me zoom back in there again. So this will give you the ability to, before we just gave you a high and a low, and so now you can really kind of dial that in. Do you want a highest quality, medium, low? Do you want 720 even if you're working in 1080? So really some nice enhancements there. And we've also added an audio-only MP3 recording. So for those of the people out there doing podcasts or who just need to get an audio-only record, that can be set up down here. And again, you can choose any input or output that you want to record from. And the other nice thing is that these 2 new record options are in addition to the 4 record options you already had. So it is not like it was previously where I had 4 record options on a 460, let's say, and I could mix and match what I want. Now I get 4 channels of QuickTime recording and a channel of H.264 recording and a channel of MP3 recording. Effectively, you now have what would have required previously 6 channels of recording now available, and this is across the board. This is on TriCaster Mini all the way up to TriCaster 8000. So this is, I think, a very nice enhancement that will really allow a lot of people to, move up to Advanced Edition version 2 who are maybe holding off because of the H.264. Another aspect to it that also has been added is the ability to name your file names. So before it just auto-named everything and you couldn't change it. Now you can go in here and call this, master, record or something like that. And this will be now the file name. Now, if you leave it blank, it will still get the default file name like it did. But the other nice thing is that if you click in these, you'll see that my little icon tells me that these are data link enabled. So I can actually just type a %. I see all my data link fields, and I can put in data link information for file names. So now my file names could be auto-named to the session, or maybe I want the hour. Maybe I want to do multiple recordings throughout the day, and I'd like my 10 o'clock recording to be named 10. and my noon recording name 12. And that way, I don't have to go back and rename them afterwards. I'm using data link to do that work for me. So a lot of nice new features there, all on the recording side. The last thing I'll just point out is that with these additional channels recording, I would still recommend that you try to follow the rules that we've always put in place of 2 channels per drive. That does mean that you should have 3 drives if you're going to try to record all of these. I know the H.264 and the MP3 are certainly much lower data rate than the QuickTime files are, but they are still a stress on the drive when you're trying to do all this recording. So on a TriCaster Mini, let's say there's 2 drives in it on a Mini STI, you could put all your QuickTimes on there. I would hook up like a USB 3 drive, there we go, to record your MP3 and H.264 files to it so that they're not going to the same drive that is being used for the QuickTime files in there. So, new record options. The other new feature that has made it into this new update is Facebook live streaming. So if you go under the stream panel, go under new connection, you'll see there's now one in here called Facebook. So let's move in so you can see that a little better. When we open it up, you can see it's got all the settings to log into Facebook plus add metadata to it. So this is using the full Facebook API. We did support using the RTMP streaming before, but all that metadata had to be entered separately. Now, as you can see, it all can be done right inside the TriCaster. Makes Facebook live streaming much easier to do. And all the profiles are in here to what you want to stream to. Do be aware that Facebook Live does max out at 720p resolution for streaming. So even though there's a 1080 in this list, you're not going to be able to stream to that, and it's a Facebook Live streaming limitation, not a limitation on our end. So both of those features are now available. If you go to the website for downloading off the NewTek website, download the updater tool, and the website might not actually be updated as of today. When I last looked, it still had the previous version number listed, but when you download the updater tool and run it, it does download this new updated version that has these new features in it. So you can get these new features today installed on your TriCaster system. So that is just a couple new things that have appeared since NAB. I also want to talk about quickly here some of the differences between a TriCaster Mini and a TriCaster 460. I know everybody out there is demoing systems and talking to clients and stuff. And I quite often get the question of well, what am I getting if I get a 460 versus a Mini, or even maybe in some cases a 410? And being that the amount of time you spend working with potential clients, giving them demos and quotes and, helping them out to get up to speed and everything, we want to make sure that they're getting the right model. And certainly if a 460 is the model that's right for them, we want to make sure that they're aware of that and they're purchasing it because, being us as resellers, we also, want to get the systems with the additional margin in them as well. So taking a look here at the chart, you can see that we have a software comparison. The next page will be a hardware comparison. So this is assuming Advanced Edition 2 is installed on both systems as we're going through them. So TriCaster Mini, as we see, the first one, comps. The Mini does not support comps. In the April 7th training I did previously, I do show you how comps work, but this is definitely a feature you want to show on the 460. It offers a ton more real-time capabilities of moving layers of video around and DVE effects and stuff that people have been asking for a long time. That's definitely something you want to point out. The 460 also has more powerful MEs that come with it, and this includes the ability to do reentry, run an ME into an ME. So now a virtual monitor on an ME can be filled with an ME that's set up as a switcher, and I can do transitions inside that virtual monitor. Something actually a lot of people ask for can be done with the 460 and Advanced Edition 2 that cannot be done on the Mini. More layers and more keyers per ME. So it just allows more complex virtual sets and ME effects that can be created because you have access to more layers in there. More downstream keyers going from 2 to 4. Another big enhancement there. And, you think about all the things you can use downstream keyers for, beyond, you know, the obvious things of, hey, you know, we want to put a score bug on the screen, we want to put a lower third title on the screen, you know, I want to put a bug on the screen, you know, I want to put a sponsor logo on the screen. You know, all those things are things you'd want to use downstream keyers for. Having more of them just allows for more of that stuff to be integrated into your show. So definitely a big enhancement to have those additional ones. Animated buffers. While both TriCaster Mini and TriCaster 460 include animated buffers, you get twice as many on the TriCaster Mini. That just means more animation, more effects. I mean, that's the kind of stuff people like to see on screen. So while, you know, 5 is good, 10 is even better. And then the last ones on here, you know, maybe no one of these by themselves is going to, you know, make somebody move up to the other model, but certainly it's putting them all together. It's, you know, hey, it's all of these things that makes people make these decisions here. So frame sync disable. If you have a client who's looking to use this in an IMAG situation, where they're trying to make sure that latency is as low as possible, this is something they're going to want. Turning off the frame syncs will save you a frame of delay going through the TriCaster. And, you know, sometimes that frame of delay could be, you know, the difference between good or bad. So, you know, the other TriCaster Mini, you know, you can't turn those off if you wanted to, where on the 460 you can. Edge feathering on keyers, just a nice effect where you can soften the edges. Available. Motion tracking, originally only on the TriCaster 8000, now available on 460 with Advanced Edition 2. A nice eye candy effect, and, you know, for some people it could be something that they might want to use. And 24 frame session support. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, this is the only feature that actually is available on the 410. You know, whereas everything else on here would be, the 410 would match that of the TriCaster Mini. But nonetheless, you have a client who wants to work on a 24 frame rate project. I'll admit it's not a common thing that comes up, but if they wanted to, 460 does allow for it, whereas the TriCaster Mini just allows for a 30 frame rate or 25 frame rate if you happen to be working in PAL countries. Hardware-wise, obviously here there's probably a little more difference because the hardware between these two models is quite different in just, you know, what they are. But again, just to go through it very quickly, so you make sure you're matching somebody up with the right equipment. You know, form factor, obviously Mini is a desktop style, 460 is a rack mount style, so right there that can make a lot of decisions for people based on just exactly where are they putting this equipment, how are they mounting it, how is it going to be used, is it being carted around in a backpack or is it going in a studio in a rack, you know. The removable drive bay that's on the 460. Now, while you can get TriCaster Minis with 2 drives in it, so you can, you know, do all that recording in the unit, it's still nice to have that removable drive. A drive fills up, you can swap it out really easily. You can put a larger drive in there to have more content available online. So a very nice feature to have. Additional analog video I/O. Now, you know, I know a lot of people out there will probably say, I don't need analog in. You know, I never use analog in anymore. And, you know, that's probably true for a lot of people out there. But don't overlook the analog outs as well. Because the analog outs, I think a lot of people still find very valuable to hooking up to additional downstream equipment. And the 460 includes that, whereas the other models do not. And of course, you know, you never know what somebody might need. Always having that analog in gives them another method of getting in a source that, you know, from an older piece of gear that they might want to hook up to the system. Additional audio I/O. The big one being the additional aux audio output. This is a really big one not to overlook. TriCaster Mini, you know, you really need a mixer to work with it just because of, you know, it's got limited analog audio inputs and outputs on it, whereas in the TriCaster 460 you have a lot of analog inputs and outputs on there. So anybody who's looking to do a lot of audio, especially they're thinking about hooking up like, you know, additional mixers from the output, and they want to run DDRs to it, or create additional mix minus channels for those outputs, they're going to find that easier to do on the TriCaster 460 because it's got more analog outputs for you to work with. Hardware video outputs. You know, the Mini has either two SDI or 2 HDMI. TriCaster 460 actually comes with 3. You get 2 SDI and an HDMI, and they can all be set up with different images or, you know, different channels on each output. So just, you know, more that you can hook up to it on the output side. The last ones here are pretty yes/no type stuff, but, you know, Genlock, if somebody needs it, it's on a TriCaster 460. hardware tally interface. Now, that's not to say that you can't get third-party tally systems that you can hook to a Mini and make it work. But on the TriCaster 460, there is the hardware tally port, which for some people, they can just wire up to and be able to use. LTC timecode support. You have clients who want to feed their own timecode into the system, so the files that get recorded have that timecode included. 460 supports that. And another one that, is kind of this feature we'd hope you don't have to use, but nonetheless is still a very important feature, is the hardware fail-safe. Something goes catastrophically wrong with the system, hardware fail-safe will kick in and allow you to route the last input as the first output. So there's still a signal going through the system. Whereas if you don't have hardware fail-safe, the output will go black. So, for those kind of clients who want that kind of protection, 460 offers that, where a Mini does not have that. And then the last thing, and this is more just a pricing thing, but just to keep in mind, is that there is the bundle pricing for the 460 with the control surface. So, if somebody's looking at the 460 control surface, which you can use on a Mini as well, and some people might get because they want that larger control surface with the joystick, with the DDR controls, the dedicated ME controls. It's just more in front of you. You can launch macros from it and stuff like that. Well, if you're putting that on a Mini, you're buying those items a la carte. If you're buying it on a 460, you can buy it as a bundle that actually saves you $1,000 in the bundle pricing. So just keep that in mind, that if somebody's looking at those combinations, going to 460, they're actually saving $1,000 than what a Mini with the same thing would be. So really, it's not a $5,000 price difference anymore. It's a $4,000 price difference. So just another little nice aspect in there. All right, so that's what's new in TriCaster. We've got the H.264 encoding, the MP3, the file names. We've got the Facebook Live, all really nice enhancements that just came out a few days ago. Let's move on to the next thing, which is 3Play. Now, on 3Play, I talked about this at NAB, the NAB training, but it wasn't available yet at that point, so I was not able to show it in action. And I just want to give you a little bit closer look of how NDI and 3Play integrate, because I think there's a little bit of confusion here with a few people on what does support NDI and what doesn't, just so you know and understand how this works and how you can take advantage of it. So I'm looking at, or what you're seeing now is the interface of a 3Play 4800. Now, NDI support is available on virtually all 3Play models. And in fact, the only 3Play that you can't is the original 330. So the 425 and the 820, if you download the latest update, that will give you 2 channels of NDI output that can go back to your TriCaster or NDI capable systems. And the Mini 440 and 4800 will give you the 2 channels of output, and it will give you 1 network overlay input that you can bring in. Now, where some people are thinking or wondering if you can do is, well, can I use the replay inputs? In other words, the inputs that I'm recording my instant replay for, can those be NDI? And the question or the answer to that question is no. Those still must be physically connected inputs. So if I go into camera 1, for example, and zoom in so you can see a little bit better here, you'll see under connection type, all of the inputs that can be used for input 1 are physical style inputs. So you're still going to have to wire your cameras in, but the output of the 3Play, that can be NDI'd back to your TriCaster. And if it is a Mini 440 or 4800, we do support the downstream keyers, and those downstream keyers do support the ability to use a network input, and that network input can be NDI. So this to show you here, I'll zoom into the network configuration panel there, and when I select here is all of the inputs that are available on the network, and you can see all the NDI inputs and outputs from my TriCaster showing up in there. Now, I do want to make one little thing to point out here, and that is that 3Play actually is supporting both NDI and AirSend. Right? So technically, you're getting both types of outputs on the system. So just be aware of that when, if somebody is running a system that's not running Advanced Edition version 2, which also supports both types, that they're picking the appropriate one so they're getting the full benefit of NDI. You'll notice at the top here in my list, I've got 3-play XD out 1 and out 2, those are the NDI, because out 1 and out 2 are the NDI labeling method. And you also see a 3-play XDA and a 3-play XDB. Those are the older AirSend outputs. So those are still there to be compatible with like a TriCaster 455, which doesn't have any AirSend support, or I'm sorry, any NDI support, only AirSend support. So you can still connect your 3-play to it and use that. It's still going to operate the same as AirSend. But let's say somebody's got a newer TriCaster 460. They're not running Advanced Edition version 2, just the standard edition that still has NDI support on the net inputs. When they go select an input, they make sure they pick an out 1 or an out 2, because then they'll get the full NDI speed inputs, which will have the extremely low delay and everything that NDI gives you. So just want to make a point of that, because some people might pick the wrong thing there and then wonder why it's not, it's no faster than AirSend was. Well, you might be picking the AirSend output, and then it would be no different than AirSend would be. You'll also notice in my window there, I've got an overlay from my NDI telestrator, which we're going to take a look at it here in a second. And you can see I can turn that on or off. So that's how I can use that NDI input to get another channel of overlay graphics. In this case, the telestration software. But again, it can be anything that's NDI coming in on there. So very quick, it's a free update to 3-play. Just go download it, put it in your system. All this NDI support will automatically be turned on. And again, AirSend support is still there as well. So even people who have not gone to a full NDI workflow can still update to benefit from everything else the updates, the latest updates add, and still keep backwards compatibility with older systems as well. Okay. Let's take a look at the NDI applications that were released at NAB. So let me flip over here really quick and turn on here. So you are now looking at my laptop. And my laptop, I am running a tool on it called NDI Telestrator. All right, this is something we just released, a brand new tool at NAB. And so, telestration, ability to draw on the screen, heavily used in sports. You want to show like how the players are moving, but also can be used, for training videos or educational videos to be able to, highlight, show things. So certainly, while sports is the first thing everybody thinks about using it, it is not limited to just sporting type things. But that's what I'm going to show it here with. Now, the really nice thing about how NDI Telestrator works is that it's just a software application that just runs on a Windows PC. I don't need any video inputs or outputs. It just needs to be connected on the network. So when you're looking at my screen here, the background of that screen is actually coming from my 3-play. And if I hit play on here, you'll see, it can have full motion background that I'm telestrating on top of if I'd like to do that. So let's just take a little look at how you set this all up and how you operate with it. The interface is actually kind of divided into two little areas here. There's an upper area at the top, which if I open this up has all of my kind of input-output capabilities here. So this is where I can first choose from this drop-down list what NDI input I would like to use as my NDI source for the background. And right now I am pulling it from my 3-play system, as you can see, out 1. But I could use any source that's available on there. So it could be from a TriCaster, or, if it was a camera that had an NDI, using like Connect Pro or something like that to convert it, I could pull that in as well. There also is this little button on the side here that's called low bandwidth mode. So while we would always recommend that you try to hook this up with wired gigabit Ethernet, if for some reason you can't and bandwidth is becoming an issue, let's say you're in wireless, for example, you can put it in low bandwidth mode, which will run in a lower resolution for the background display so that it doesn't need as much bandwidth. So for those kind of situations where you might be in that, there is kind of an ability to override if you should need that. But again, I would always recommend that you try to set this up wired. And even if it's a laptop that doesn't have Ethernet on it, if it's got USB 3 on it, you can get a USB 3 to Ethernet, gigabit Ethernet adapter, hook that in, and I guarantee it will be better than going with wireless still. There's also a few other tools in here. One we have is a background grab tool. So if, let's say instead of drawing on top of a motion background, I would just want to grab a screen grab or an image grab of that background and then draw on top of that. I can just click the little camera button here, which will grab it, And now you're not going to see it move here, but I just hit play on my 3-play, but you can see that the video is not playing because, again, I've just grabbed a still of it. But I still can go on here and draw if I'd like to. So this could be very useful. You just want to, maybe the 3-play operator is still getting their clip tweaked and everything like that. You could grab a frame, draw on top of it, use that as a reference, or even use that as the full output and then just transition to the live video if you wanted to. I'm going to turn it off here and you'll see it jump to other video because, again, I hit play on my 3-play and that just happens to be where I stopped it. We also have the ability to overlay a graphic, and this could be nice because, for example, I could integrate my replay flag right inside the telestration software. So now this graphic that goes out to whatever my 3-play or TriCaster, not only does it have the drawing on there, it also has the replay flag included as well. That could be very useful on a 425 system, let's say, where you could kind of use that as a way to get another channel of video in if you wanted to. You can turn that on and off as well as you need to. So once you get that all set up, you usually close that back down, and you'll notice that the frame grab and background, or the frame grab for the background and the on-off button for it are still visible, so you can get to those whenever you need to. And then down at the bottom of the interface, we've got our drawing tools. And I'm going to open this panel up as well, and you can see there's more tools available. And just starting with the left and going to the right here, we've got our different colors that are available. So you could just pick the color you want to draw in. Let's say I want to do it in red, and you're drawing in red. If I pick blue, as you can guess, you're drawing in blue. So there's your colors. Then we've got our different drawing tools. The top row of buttons in here are the shapes of the tools. Do you want to draw squares or circles or freehand lines or arrows or stuff like that? And then the bottom one are the brushes. And these brushes actually work in hand with the shapes. So, for example, if I click on the big brush there and draw, you see I get a big, thick brush. And if I pick the little one, I get a little one. But these also apply to the shapes as well. So if I grab a circle, I'll get a thin circle, and if I grab a big one, you'll see I get a big fat circle. So you can use these to kind of, get the right size brush you're looking for whatever kind of objects you're looking to make in there. Also, a lot of these drawing tools, if you click on them a second time, they have a second mode of drawing. So, for example, I can have a shape that is filled in versus one that isn't. And that can be done for a lot of these tools in here. The square, same thing. Even the drawing tools like the arrow, I can have a gradiated arrow, or if I click it on again, I'll get a completely solid arrow. So just be aware that these can be kind of clicked on a second time for a whole second style of drawing that's available to you. And then these last buttons over here are the garbage can to just erase everything and start over. There's also an eraser tool that allows you to erase just individual strokes. It works best if you just kind of erase across an edge of the stroke to get rid of it. And then there's also a marker tool. The marker tool makes whatever you're drawing about 50% transparent over how it would normally be. So, you can kind of see through it a little bit. And this does work with even like the filled in shapes. So you see if I do this, the edge is still transparent and the inside is even more transparent. So it isn't exclusively just to be used with the freehand draw. And the last button over here is the smoothing function. And so this works mostly with the freehand tool. If you were to draw something with it off versus draw something with it on, the difference is, sometimes kind of minor admittedly, but it does help smooth out the edges a little bit. Just gives it a slightly nicer look on it than what could be kind of a rougher shape without it. But again, if for whatever reason you need that, very exacting shape, you can turn that off and then it will draw exactly what you draw. So that is how you work with NDI Telestrator. Pretty straightforward. You draw on the screen. I'm doing it with a mouse here, partially so you can kind of see what I'm doing as I'm doing it, but also I happen to be running on the laptop that doesn't have a touchscreen on there. Certainly, if you are going to give this to a customer, while touchscreen is not a required feature, I would certainly say it is a highly recommended feature to have, because I can tell you when you're drawing with your fingers, it works so much nicer than doing it with the mouse. But let's just quickly kind of reset this back here at the beginning and just kind of show you here how I can incorporate this into a production. So let's say this guy right here, he's going to make kind of a rundown like this and go in that direction. And so now that I've drawn that, to get that back into my TriCaster, I just pull it in as an NDI source, because whatever I draw automatically comes back in as NDI. So let's go back into our TriCaster here. Okay, so let me jump back. So here we are in TriCaster, and I'm just going to use input 5 here, and if I double-click on this, you'll see in my drop-down list, there is NDI Telestrator coming in. So I'm going to select that, and you can see just the drawn object has appeared inside the TriCaster interface. Oh, I think my app isn't talking here. Let's try this again. There we go. So there you can see it showing up in the interface up here. And I can now route this to one of my downstream keys. So let's use input 5. I'm going to put the replay input on the screen there, and I can now bring that in, and you can see there it is lined up on top of my video. Now again, this is a separate element from the background, so I can go in here and hit play in my 3-play system, which starts playback, and then you can see the guy running, and I could fade out the telestration there, just as one example of a workflow you could do in there. So, that's how you could bring it in. I also do want to point out that, using that frame grab feature, this input can be a full input with video and everything. So if I just go in here and I turn on the background, you can see that now input 5 in here is showing me the full background with what I've drawn on there. So again, either type of method could work. I can use the background method to show a full image that I'm drawing on, or with the background turned off, that frame grab feature turned off, I will get just the alpha channel drawing shape that I can overlay on anything that I'd like in there. The last thing I just want to point out in the NDI Telestrator is that if you look at the top, and this might be covered a little bit by the go to training kind of bar at the very top of the graphics. So if you can't see it, I'll just describe it. But there's a red bar that's appearing right now in the NDI Telestrator window. That just tells me that my NDI Telestrator is on program out. It's active. And if I go here and turn it off, you'll see it now has gone out. So that's a very nice, gives you indicator, visual feedback to whoever's running NDI Telestrator, whether or not they're on air or not. Or, if they're on preview, it would turn green and let them know they're on preview. So that way, if it's red, maybe you're telling them, hey, when the bar's red at the top, don't draw on the screen, because whatever you draw, we're going to see it happen live. Do it when it's not red, and and then that way you're not worrying about stuff showing up on the screen, unless of course you want to see that. So, all right, so that's NDI Telestrator. I just will finish up that NDI Telestrator is relatively inexpensive for a telestration software. It's like $495 US. I was just last week at the SVG show in Atlanta, where we have teams and conferences from colleges all over the country coming in, to look at video equipment and how to produce video for sports and stuff like that. And we were showing them NDI Telestrator there, and everybody who saw it was just, flabbergasted that for $500 I can do this. I just put it on a PC and I'm done. I mean, it was like a no-brainer. It's like, we got to get this. We got to get this right now, because, before they've all wanted to do this stuff, it was just always too expensive to do it. And now here it is, and it's, it's almost like we don't even have to think about it. Just, get that and we'll have it if we ever want to use it. Okay. So that's NDI Telestrator. Let's go on to the next new tool that was released at NAB, and that is the Adobe CC NDI plugin. So this is a tool that you can add into your Adobe applications, basically Premiere, After Effects, SpeedGrade, and Prelude all are supporting it. I'm just going to show it with Premiere, because once you basically see how it works with one of them, you'll very much understand how it works with all of them, because it's basically the same thing. It's just with all those different applications. So what this lets you do is take the output of these applications and turn them into a real-time NDI output that can then show up inside your TriCaster or any other NDI-based application. So once you get them installed, you can just go to the Edit menu, Preferences, Playback, and in here is where you set up the NDI output. There's actually two settings you set. One is for the video down here where it says Video Device. I'm sending it to my NDI video output, which is just makes the video available. And then I also have to tell the audio, if I want the audio from the timeline to also be included in that NDI stream, I just have to select it as the audio output in there. And then the audio will be routed into that channel. So now that we've done that, you can see I've got my timeline here and I can scrub through it and see some video. Let's go into our TriCaster and take a look how we get this in. So let's flip back over here, and I'm going to go and bring that into input 5. So we'll double click on it, click on the list, and you'll see in the window that appears over here, Adobe Premiere in this list. Oops, maybe down a little bit lower for you. There we go, Adobe Premiere. So I'm going to select that, all right? And as soon as I hit play, we'll see stuff show up in the window in there. So I'm going to hit play, and there is my video that I just am playing on the timeline appearing in as a TriCaster input. So this could be really useful for people who are editing. They need to get that stuff in. Instead of them exporting out a file and then transferring it and re-importing it in a DDR and play it, they literally can play it right off their Premiere timeline into TriCaster. And Premiere offers a lot of real-time functionality. And I've played around with it. I've got real-time blurs to play back in the timeline. In fact, you can even do alpha channel effects where I've cut a circle, and when I play it out, that alpha channel information travels along with it and shows up in the NDI input. And so you literally can have video inside a circle if you wanted to. That's all that works actually being done in Premiere, and then TriCaster's just displaying it and laying it on top of whatever you tell it. This also be useful even for non-TriCaster use. Think of a production house where maybe they've got like a newsroom or something like that, and they've got different editors working, and the producer wants to see what the latest cut of something is. Again, instead of having that editor either call the producer in so you could show it to them, or exporting out a file and sending it to them so they could look at it, and hey, is this the latest version file or not, and all that kind of stuff, they could just play the timeline out, and the producer can open up NDI Monitor on their computer, and they can literally watch the current cut and even interact with them. Hey, if they're on the phone or whatever, stop, make a change right there, do that stuff, play it again. Certainly will tighten up that whole workflow of working. And by the way, NDI Monitor is also available on Macintosh as well. If you go into the Apple Mac Store, App Store, you can search for NDI Monitor, and Sienna has released one for Macintosh. So now that same workflow could work to view the output of that either on a PC or a Mac. I do want to point out that the Adobe CC right now is only available on Windows. The Mac version has not been released yet. So just keep that in mind when you're talking to customers to make sure they're on a PC platform if they want to be taking advantage of that today. All right. On to the next tool, which is NDI Transmit. So NDI Transmit is a plugin, or I guess it's kind of a plugin. It's an application, I guess is a better way to say it, that you install on a PC that takes an NDI stream and turns it into a web camera. All right. Sorry, I was trying to think of the right terminology there. So the whole idea with this is that NDI can be, of course, incorporated into a bunch of applications, and we're seeing apps come out all the time that are incorporating NDI. But there's also a whole world of applications out there that do take webcams for input, but we don't know if they're ever going to get an NDI input or when that might happen, even if they are doing it. This is a bridge to get NDI into an application that is looking for a webcam. So let's take a quick look at, let's say, just starting out using it with Skype as an example. So I'm going to go back to my laptop here, and I'm going to open up Skype and go to my Tools menu. And under my video settings, now by default, when I first open this up, this is this is the webcam of my camera on my laptop, but I instead want it to be NDI. So I'm going to select from the top, and you can see that the NewTek NDI video shows up as a webcam. So I'm going to select that. And now the video you're seeing here, this is actually coming from the webcam, the JVC camera. It's not a webcam. My JVC professional camera here, right over as NDI into the system. And just to even make it a little bit neater, I'm going to route one of my MEs as an output here. All right. And just to show you, I can change this down in the corner of my computer interface is a little NDI tool. Transmit tool. I open this up. There's all my NDI sources. So let's set this to TriCaster XD Out 2. And you can see, hey, now it's that virtual set I was using earlier showing up as my webcam input in there. So From this tool, I can select any NDI source that's on the network. I also have the ability, if I click the right button there. I also have the ability to choose what resolution video I want sent into my application. Most applications tend to be pretty accepting of everything, but I will admit some applications will only accept certain resolutions. Go to training or go to meetings, a prime example. It will accept up to a 720p webcam, but if you try to run 1080 into it, it just won't accept it. So you do have the ability to override that and say, hey, I might be working 1080p, but I just want 720 going into this application. We also have audio support, and so it will grab the audio that's coming in on that NDI feed as well and present it to the system as a virtual sound card, microphone input effectively, and then you can route that into your application. And there's some adjustments here to adjust the audio level. There's even a nice audio gain feature, so this will try to normalize the audio for you. If it's coming in kind of low, it will raise it up, or if it's coming in a little too hot, it will bring it down. So it just tries to get it at a nicer level for you, depending upon what you have feeding in there. So here it is running in Skype, and of course to get the audio in, I'd go to my audio settings and I would set the line NewTek audio in as for the audio return. But let's show it in one other application so you can see it working in something else. Now, just like webcams on a computer, they can only be used by one application at a time, and this would be no exception. So I'm going to set this back to my webcam of my laptop here, and I'm going to run another application called OBS Studio, Open Broadcaster. This is open source software that allows you to record and stream. And so I've already set it up here with using the transmit webcam. So if I just go to my video capture device, you can see it's set up to NewTek NDI video, and then I can set up the resolution and all the settings in here. And so there is, video from my TriCaster now coming into OBS. And then the beauty of this is that OBS can do streaming and recording. So if I go into my settings, for example, I could set up my stream settings, and I could set up all sorts of streaming services and, who I want to stream to and stuff. Or for my output, I can set up the streaming and I can set up the recording. And so this is a really nice thing. Let's say somebody comes to you and says, hey, I need an H.264 file, and I need very particular properties on how it needs to be recorded. It needs to be this bit rate with these kind of settings and all that kind of stuff. You could go into OBS Studio, and I could say, hey, I want custom encoding, and now I can type in, I need exactly 1.5 megabits, I need the audio at this, and all these kind of things, and then record me a file, using exactly the settings that I'd like to have. So NDI transmit allows you to do all those type of things. Now, I just want to take a second here and just let you know that all of those tools I just showed you, Telestrator, Transmit, and Adobe CC, all of those do have demo versions available. So if somebody wants to try these out first, they can just go to ndi.newtek.com, fill out the form. They'll get a link to download a trial version of the software. The trial versions of all of these are fully functional. They just have a watermark that'll appear at the bottom of the screen. So they can play around with them as much as they want, install them on different computers if they want to try it out first and make sure the computer is going to kind of operate in the need that they want before they actually go do a full purchase of it. But I just want to let you know that all of those are available as a trial version as well. So great way for people to test it out themselves. If they're trying to decide if they do or don't want it. The last tool I just want to take a look at is NDI Connect. I did show this on the April 7th training I did, but I want to kind of add a little update to it here because there has been an update to it, and there was one feature in that previous training I wasn't able to show because I had an Apache web server installed on the computer at the time. So let me just show those things here. We'll start this up. So NDI Connect, again, is our software to take video sources that basically aren't NDI and turn them into NDI, or vice versa. Take NDI sources and turn them back into other things like baseband video sources. So typically people are using this with like capture cards like Blackmagic or AJA or Deltacast, Matrox, Magewell, Bluefish, a variety of cards out there. But in this latest version we just came out with, version 1.5, we have now added full IP support. So if I go into input 1, for example, in here, you can see in my drop-down list, I now have an IP input option. I will select that, And let's zoom in a little bit so you can see it a little bit better. So now in this list, I can set up IP cameras or other IP inputs. So you can see I've got JVC, Panasonic, PTZ Optics, Sony, Vadio, and there's also WebStream and just custom settings in there as well. So there's actually quite a list of supported devices in there, or if it's not on the list, there's custom, and you probably could make it work with something if you wanted to. Some of these have been enhanced over the IP support we had previously built into the TriCaster. For example, if I go to JVC Camera, you'll see that, whoops, it's in the middle here. You'll see that I can punch on my info. There's also a new option down here that says use UDP. All right, so before in the TriCaster, or if you don't use this option in Connect Pro, this software would reach into the camera, pull out the stream, and display it. And you could certainly still work that way. But in the JVC Camera, you can actually set up the streaming server in it to push the stream out directly to a target application, in this case, Connect Pro. And so in that, when you set it up that way, instead of this application reaching in and pulling the stream out, the camera automatically just sends the stream as soon as you start it. That actually can lower the latency a little bit more over what you typically would get when using these other IP formats. So if you want to set it up that way and use it, you can just click this Use UDP option, set up a UDP stream in your JVC Camera, and then you'd be able to receive that lower latency format directly into NewTek Connect Pro. So that's a nice enhancement. The other enhancement that is in here as well is Apple AirPlay support. So you notice in here I've got Apple Source as one of my options. I can select that, and I've already got actually Output 2 set up that way. So you can select that and now use a iPad or iPhone to stream in. So let me start up my iPhone here, and there you can see my iPhone appearing in the second input. Just kind of zoom in a little bit there. Let me go run an application, like we'll run Safari. All right, so there's my web browser. There's the NewTek forums showing up in my iPad. All right, so this is cool because not only is it iPad or iPhone support, but it's mirroring. So it's whatever shows up on my screen is now appearing in this application as an NDI source to go into TriCaster or NDI ISO recorder if you wanted to record it so that I can start working with it. Let's take a look at this in TriCaster. As you can see it going all the way in. So I'm going to go back to our TriCaster interface here. We'll go to Input 5, and off of my list, there's Out 2. And let's put that on Output, and there it is. And just to show you the full output, so there is the output of my iPhone going through Connect Pro, into TriCaster, and then out to you. So you can see it happening there. I just want to show you one other example of an application running with this. PowerPoint on the iPhone or the iPad is actually a great app to use with AirPlay. So I'm going to open this up, and you'll notice that when I run this here, you on your end are just seeing a full screen output of my PowerPoint, but on my screen, I actually see overlay information showing up on the iPhone or the iPad. So in fact, I can go to my drawing tools, and I can even draw on the screen, kind of a little bit like an NDI Telestrator there. But this is just happening in PowerPoint. And again, you don't see any of those tools that appear on my screen, but they are showing up on my iPhone screen. But on the other end, through AirPlay, it's only showing you the output in there. So there are some applications that have kind of this advanced AirPlay support built into them. And, the PowerPoint app for iPhone and iPad happens to be one of those. So definitely a nice way to do PowerPoints even into TriCaster. And the last thing I want to show you in Connect Pro, I didn't get to show this in the April 7th training because I didn't have things configured properly, is the web server. So let me show you that really quickly as well, because this is another very cool feature, and I think it's something you got to see to fully get. So I'm going to minimize this for a second, and you'll notice down in my my toolbar here is a little web server icon. I'm going to go on here and visit the web page. Now, you can do this from any computer. All you got to do is open up the web page just by typing in the IP or the name of the computer in there. And you can see that, in this case, a Chrome window has opened up. Let me go back full screen in here. And it's showing me NDI sources. So I can go in here and real quickly here, let's pull in my camera from my TriCaster in here. So if I double click on it here, it's going to go out and look for all the NDI sources, which will take it a second. Well, while it's scanning those, it takes a second here. You can choose different amounts of sources in there. So if I want fewer or more, you can do that. Or I can even just have one big one on the screen in there. I don't know why it's not... Oh, there we go. Sorry. I guess I just needed to click. All right. So let's go find... There it is. TriCaster in 1. There we go. So that is the JVC camera coming into my TriCaster input 1, being pulled using the Connect Pro NDI web server to then be displayed as a web page source in any browser that is on my network. So that's the whole thing here, is now people want to view NDI sources. Yeah, you can use NDI Monitor, and that's certainly going to be the best way to do it. But, what if they're on a system that doesn't have NDI Monitor installed? What if they're on an iPad? What if they're on their phone and they'd like to view this? You can pull up this web page and view now these NDI sources through the web interface. Now, I will tell you it is video only. There is not audio on here, so it's strictly just previewing the video. But also, latency on it is really low. I mean, it's maybe, a couple frames, but this is certainly not any half second, 1 second, 2 seconds of latency on here. This is just, a couple frames more so than NDI is. And really, it's not the NDI side. It's the turning into a web stream and feeding it to me in there. So, again, NDI Pro includes this web server as a standard feature. Once you install it, you don't even have to pull the sources into Connect Pro. You just, when it's running, any NDI source on the network becomes available through the web server to any client that wants to pull it up. And multiple people pulling up multiple interfaces can have different layouts. It's not like it's one layout shared between everybody. Different people can be viewing different sources through this. I will just say that the web server functionality can be, if a lot of people are using it and they're pulling a lot of streams through, can be very CPU intensive. So there is a quality setting at the top, or it defaults to low, but you can adjust that. Obviously, higher quality is going to mean, more CPU. So keep that in mind. If everybody goes and starts picking highest quality and the system is not very powerful, you could start overloading it. Or if you do really plan on using this a lot, you might even want to think about Connect Pro dedicated. All it is running as the web server on another machine, just for people to hit that and then use Connect Pro, another copy of Connect Pro on another system for it to do its things. Again, depending upon how much web or CPU functionality and power that system has. If you find it's fine, it's fine. Certainly a few streams won't be a problem, but I just want to point out that if you had dozens of people pulling this up, you would see an impact on CPU resources of this machine. Okay. Well, that, I think for the most part, brings us to an end of the things I wanted to cover here. I want to thank everybody for joining us. I am going to leave this open for any questions people might have. So if you do have any questions, you can just type those into the chat room. And Ted might have already answered some of them, but if not, or if there any new ones do come up, or there's anything you want me to show again, let me know, and we'll do that. Otherwise, I do want to thank all of you for coming out. This video will be turned into a streamable version that will be put up hopefully by next week, so that anybody who wasn't able to watch this, or if you've got coworkers or something that want to see it but weren't able to, they will be able to watch this video as well. And again, anything I didn't cover really was from the April 7th training that happened, right before NAB. So this was intended as an add-on. So that's why I did not go over everything from start to end here again. I just wanted to cover what was new and try to keep this a little shorter. So again, any questions? Otherwise, we will wrap this up.